G'day guys, how are we? Welcome back to the Boxing Deep Dive channel. I hope you had a great Christmas and New Year, and great to have you back on the Deep Dive channel for what hopefully will be another big year of videos. This is our first special of 2024, and it's always a little bit risky, I suppose, with any special that we do, because everyone has an opinion, everyone has their own point of view, and that's great. This is simply my point of view, and what we're going to do in this episode is go through the 10 Aussie boxers that I think will make the biggest splash in 2024. Now, I'm going to preempt the whole video or episode by saying this is not, I repeat, not a pound for pound list. Okay, so if you're a boxer, you think he should be number 3 pound for pound, and he ends up at the number 8 to make a splash, it's not a slight against your favourite boxer. It is simply who I think will make the biggest impact on the world scene this year. And there will be a few, discussion points, I will say. What I'm going to do is go through the 10 that I think, and then another 10 honourable mentions, and I will explain why I have the fighters where they are and the ones that maybe where they're not. So there will be a few surprises there. I will put that out there straight away, and as I said at the start, it is always risky doing these videos because everyone's got their own point of view. So these are the 10 boxers I think will make the biggest impact or splash, whatever you want to call it, on the world scene in 2024. Like a lot of them are obvious, but there's a few that, as I said, that will surprise you, and some will probably get you a little bit upset. So let's get into the first one. We're going to start at number 10 and work our way down to number 1, and then I'll get into honourable mentions later on, and I'll wait to hear from all you guys why the hell I don't know what I'm talking about. So let's get into it, shall we? The first one I'm going to go with is Justice Huni. Now, Justice, we'll probably look at him and say, look, he's probably a little bit off yet. He's only had the 9 or 10 fights, whatever. It might not even be that. Actually, I haven't got it in front of me. Apologies. But he hasn't had 10 fights yet. But he is rated in the top 15 of 3 organisations. He is the WBA number 14, IBF 14, WBO 15. But the reason I've got him in here to start with is that, 1, he's a heavyweight. Plenty of big fights out there for heavyweights, and it's pretty, I won't say it's easy, but if you get one of those big fights against an array of fringe contenders, main contenders, whatever you want to call them, they're there. And the fact, with number 2 point, is that he's with Matchroom Boxing. So Eddie Hearn at some stage is going to want to test the waters and put him in with a rated opponent. He did it with Dempsey McKean. Unfortunately, Dempsey didn't measure up, but he'll do the same with Justice Huni at some stage, especially if Justice Huni's team, management, they want to step him up, which I've heard they do, Tasman Fighters. You might see him this year, maybe get a fringe contender. As I said, he's already ranked in the top 15 of 3 organisations. So technically, he could get a world title shot against one of the heavyweight champions. So that's how it works in this day and age. It would be a voluntary defence. But either way, if you're in the top 15, you are in the gun. And as I said, the fact that he is with Matchroom, and the fact that he is a heavyweight, and the fact that they're looking to step him up, he's already been on some big cards. I really think that 2024, you will see Justice Huni in some big fights. However, of course, the caveat is he good enough to win those fights? I personally think he is. And if he can get an opportunity against one of those fringe contenders or even a main contender, who knows? I think he's got the ability to show everyone that he's definitely maybe a future world champion in the making. Definitely, I think, a top 5 or 6 contender in the world in the making. And if he can get an opportunity, I think Justice Huni will make a massive, massive splash in 2024. He's got all the tools to do it. Then, of course, the rest is up to him. Let's go to number 9. This might surprise a little bit. It is the little buzzsaw from the West, Alex Winwood. Now, Alex has only had 4 fights, but he is very, very poised to make that impact on the world scene. He's already ranked, even though he's only had 4 fights, WBC number 2, WBA number 12, IBF number 5, and WBO number 7. So all those organisations, I think he will find himself opposite the ring with a world champion in 2024. And I don't see the pool of champions or contenders or whatever you might want to call it out there as being particularly threatening. And I think Alex Winwood has the opportunity if he can get a shot at one of those belts to win the belt and become the dominant fighter at, is it minimum weight, I think it is. The WBC champion, I think, is the one they're aiming for at the moment. Obviously, he's ranked number 2, so very, very high there. It's Yuade Shigeoka, I think it is. So he's the one they're aiming for, but ranked in the top 12 with the WBA, but IBF 5, WBO 7. So no doubt whatsoever in my mind, in 2024, Alex Winwood will get a shot at a world title. And as I said, I don't think the talent pool is particularly deep at that weight. And he could be the dominant little fighter, or I won't call him little, that's a bit of an insult, but the dominant fighter at the minimum weight, which I think is 105, correct me if I'm wrong. So I think big things from Alex. He's such a talented guy, very, very marketable guy as well. Great team behind him, which is the Dragonfire team. And I think you'll see big things from Alex Winwood in 2024. Let's go to number 8, Liam Wilson. He's already had a shot, of course, at the world title against Emmanuel Navarrete. Not quite sure he gets another shot at Navarrete. However, there is talk that Navarrete will move up to lightweight with possibly a fight against Shakur Stevenson or someone like that this year. He is the WBO number 2 at 130 is Liam Wilson. So if Navarrete vacates, then Liam Wilson will get a shot at the vacant title, which is at the moment Albert Bell would be the opponent. He's ranked number 1 with the WBO. But who knows? He gained a lot of followers with that performance against Navarrete, so maybe it could be an Oscar Valdez looking for a rebound fight, Robson Casasio or a Lee Wood. One of these guys is going to want someone like a Liam Wilson to really push their credentials, and even if they don't, the fact that he's ranked number 2 with the WBO at 130, if Navarrete goes up, he gets a shot against Albert Bell, which I think is more than capable of winning. And then from there, the doors open, and he could have a multitude of big fights, and being those guys I mentioned, like an Oscar Valdez. What a fight that would be if he had the WBO belt with an Oscar Valdez. If he decides to hang around and maybe not retire, I think the word is he will stay in the game as Oscar Valdez. He would see Liam Wilson as a great opponent if Liam Wilson had the belt. So plenty of options there for Liam Wilson. Of course, he's got to win the belt if he gets an opportunity, but as I said, with Navarrete possibly moving up this year to pursue another challenge against Shakur Stevenson, the odds are that Liam Wilson will get a shot at that WBO belt. So a great opportunity for Liam Wilson to become a world champion in 2024. Let's go to number 7. This might be a little bit surprising, but I think it's warranted. It is Skye Nicholson. Now, the female boxers don't really get mentioned in the scheme of things, and I know a lot of people will be rolling their eyes at the moment, but the fact of the matter is the female boxing fraternity are here to stay. It's getting better and better every single year, and Skye Nicholson at the moment, I think, is our pound-for-pound number 1 female boxer. She's a WBC interim 126-pound champion. She's made no secret that she wants Amanda Serrano, the undisputed champion. So if that fight comes off, massive opportunity for Skye Nicholson. Whether she can win that fight, I remain to be convinced. I think Amanda Serrano is an absolute beast, if I can call a female boxer a beast. But she is a very, very, I won't say good fighter, she's a great fighter. Female fighter is Amanda Serrano. But props to Skye Nicholson wanting that fight. And if she does get that fight, that has the potential to really propel her into some big money fights, big fights in big arenas on big cards. So plenty of opportunity there for her. Now, even if the Serrano fight doesn't come off, you've got Sarah Marford of the WBC silver title. I didn't actually mention that Serrano has threatened to retire, by the way, because she's upset with the WBC, or she has relinquished that WBC belt. So Sarah Marford and Skye will fight for the WBC silver title. There's also Raven Chapman from Britain, who's a WBC international title. So that Serrano fight doesn't happen. She's got those options there. But either way, I think you'll see Skye Nicholson challenging for that WBC belt and winning that WBC belt in 2024, as long as it's not against Amanda Serrano, just with a little asterisk there. Let's go to number 6. I have Sam Goodman. Now, he might be a little bit low, Sam Goodman, but the reason I've got him there, it's almost a bit of the champion or bust for him. And what I mean by that, you've got Naoya Inoue, of course, is now the unified 122-pound champion. But Sam Goodman is ranked number 1 by the WBO and IBF, WBC number 8. And there has been talk that he could be in line to fight Inoue. And whether you think he'll win or not doesn't really matter. To be thrust into a fight like that against arguably the pound-for-pound king would just be massive for Sam Goodman. A little bit like Jason Maloney, but I think in a way he's actually solidified himself even more in the boxing scene, if that's possible, since he fought Jason Maloney a couple of years ago. So massive fight for him. But even if in a way or he doesn't get the shot, then maybe there could be a Fulton or Tapales might want a rebound fight and see Sam Goodman as a very, very viable option with those rankings there. As I said, WBO and IBF number 1, WBC number 8. I think, just a gut feeling, I think in a way will fight Sam Goodman in 2024. And that's why I've got him at number 6. And as I said, win or lose, it's just a massive fight for him on a massive stage, most likely in Japan. And you got to give Sam Goodman credit for not backing away from the challenge. He wants to fight in a way. And if that fight happens, that fight alone is why he will make the biggest impact in 2024 at number 6. Let's go to number 5, and I have Liam Parro. Now, arguably, Sam Goodman could have been above Liam Parro. The reason I have Liam Parro above Sam Goodman is that I just think the potential for those mega opponents are out there. Now, for Sam Goodman, there's really only in a way. For Liam Parro, he's coming off that great win over Montana Love. He's ranked up number 8 by the WBO. I think that will change when the rankings are updated as of this recording. It did say they've been all updated by mid-December, but I got a feeling that's not the case because a lot of things didn't measure up. One being that Regis Prograis is still the WBC champion, even though was it the 9th of December he lost that belt to Devin Haney. Now, as I said, the reason I've got Liam Parro at number 5, Ryan Garcia started to take notice. Not many bigger names in that division than Ryan Garcia. He's a superstar over there. I personally don't think his talent matches up with his profile, but that doesn't matter. It's all about the coin and the profile for these guys. Ryan Garcia would be a massive fight for Liam Parro. I don't think it happens in Australia. I think it happens in the States. But apart from Ryan Garcia, you have got Regis Prograis. Maybe he wants that comeback fight and sees Liam Parro as the ideal opponent. You might have a Josh Taylor in a similar boat. Then you've got the big dogs, Teofimo Lopez. He's the WBO champion. I know he's got a fight coming up. But after that, who knows, you might want a voluntary, and Liam Parro at number 8 might fit the bill. And, of course, there's also Devin Haney. Now, he's a WBC belt. Liam Parro has already been scheduled to fight Prograis for that WBC belt. Of course, injury forced him out of that fight. But it shows he's in the WBC sinking as well. So who knows, we might get Devin Haney again in a voluntary defence against Liam Parro. But either way, all those opponents at super welterweight, they've all started to take notice. Most of them have commented about his last fight, particularly Ryan Garcia. But the fact you've got Prograis and Taylor and Lopez and Haney and those types of guys out there, just plenty of options for Liam Parro. And I think, again, being with Matchroom Boxing, you'll see him get a massive opportunity in 2024. Whether he can take it is another thing, but I think he has the potential of making the biggest splash, maybe of anyone, in 2024. Getting into the nitty-gritty now, the top 4, probably no surprise with these guys, but we'll go through them anyway. Let's start with number 4, Jason Maloney. Of course, he's got a big fight on the 13th of January in Quebec. He's fighting Saul Sanchez, who's 20-2 in defence of the WBO bantamweight title. He has got the other champions. Now, the reason I've got him so high is to make a splash. Now, he hasn't particularly got that big-name opponent to fight in 2024, but what he has got is the options of the other champions maybe possibly wanting to unify those belts. So he's got Alexandro Barrios as a WBC champion, Takuma Inoue as a WBA champion, and at the time of this recording, Emmanuel Rodriguez is still listed as the IBF champion, but there was talk or rumours or news, whatever you want to call it, that he'd actually retired and relinquished that belt. Doesn't really matter. I think you'll see Jason target all those champions, and I think his next 2 fights maybe after this one, I think he does want to fight at least 3 times in 2024. At least one of those could be a unification fight. So that's why I've got him so high. As I said, not particularly by the quality of the opponents and that big name out there, but just the fact that Jason Maloney 2024 could grab one, possibly even two of those belts, maybe even three, who knows? And he could be unified champion or very, very close to it by the end of the year. He's mandatory is Raymart Gaballo, the WBO number one. But apart from all those guys, and I did say there's no really big names out there, but who's to say maybe a one Francisco Estrada or a Chocolatito Gonzalez or a Junto Nakatani, who beat Jason's brother Andrew, of course. Maybe those might want to move up and challenge Jason for that WBO belt or one of those other belts as well. So lots of options out there for Jason Maloney, and definitely the potential to make a massive impact in his career in 2024. All right, let's get to the top three. I'm sure this will raise a few eyebrows, but again, it's not a pound-for-pound list. It's just the fighters who I think will make the biggest impact. Now, I've got Jai Opetaia at number 3. Now, a lot of you guys are thinking, hey, hang on, how could you have Jai Opetaia at number 3? He's our pound-for-pound best fighter. And yes, I do have Jai Opetaia at number 1 in pound-for-pound. The reason I have him at number 3 is a little bit like the Jason Maloney situation. I don't see the big opponents out there for him. Now, the other thing is now he's not a world champion anymore, of course. He lost the IBF belt I think, in ridiculous circumstances. Marius Briedis and Gilberto Ramirez are going to fight for that IBF belt. I don't think either one of those guys wants a crack at Opetaia. Maybe we might get Marius Briedis, if he beats Ramirez, might want to fight Opetaia in a rematch at the end of the year. But that's about it. Now, you got Chris Bellum-Smith as a WBO champion, Badu Jack as a WBC champion. You've also got maybe Richard Rioport, Lawrence Okoli. So as you can see, they're not massive names, and that's why I've got Jai at number 3, because I know he's with Matchroom. I know he's going to get plenty of opportunities, especially in Saudi Arabia. Big money fights, and that's great. That is awesome. But I just don't see him making that impact in 2024 that the top two may make if they win, of course. I'm thinking 2025 is the year that we might see Jai Opetaia really make his move and maybe move to heavyweight, and that's when we're going to see some massive fight for Jai Opetaia. So for this year only, as I said, I've got him at number 1 in my pound-for-pound list, but only at number 3 in making a splash or an impact in 2024 because of the quality of opponents he's got to fight and whether those guys want to fight him. So that's why he's at number 3. I hope I made sense with that. Let's go to number 2. And look, 1 and 2 could have easily been swapped around, but I've got George Cambos Jr. at number 2 now. Look, it hasn't been officially announced, but I think 99% of the population know it's going to happen. He's going to fight Lomachenko in April or May in Perth here in Australia for the vacant IBF lightweight title. That alone has the potential, of course, to make a massive statement in 2024. He wins that fight and he's right back as far, well, in Australia as a superstar, but internationally a superstar, possibly even knocking on the door of a pound-for-pound. Won't say maybe top 10, but maybe a top 12 or something like that. But what it does, it just puts him right back into the mix of being a genuine superstar in the world of boxing if he can beat Lomachenko. But also what it does after that, it opens the door to fights with the likes of Shakur Stevenson, Gervonta Tank Davis, maybe a Pitbull Cruz, probably on a lesser scale of Frank Martin. But you get where I'm going with that. The potential to have that belt, all those guys are going to want a piece of George Cambos. So if he gets past Lomachenko, I know it's a massive ask. I think he can make a real fight of it. I know a lot of you out there will probably scoff at that, but I think he gives Lomachenko all he can handle, and he's a real chance of winning that IBF belt. And if he can do that, then those fights with a Stevenson or a Davis are out there. And I think he has the potential of being Australia's biggest superstar, maybe, arguably, because it all comes down, of course, to our number 1, which is no surprise, Tim Zooo. Now, again, like George Cambos, it's all at his feet. Potentially, I think that George Cambos, especially if he beats Lomachenko, could maybe surpass Tim Zooo as making the biggest impact in 2024. And it's only because of what the potential opponents for Tim Zooo might look like. Now, it'd be great if the Terence Crawfords or maybe an Errol Spence or Charlo, of course, would fight Tim. But if it don't happen, if those fights don't happen, again, the talent pool and the big names are a little bit shallow. So let's just start off with straight away. Charlo is still the WBC, WBA champion. Of course, Tim Zooo is the WBO champion. Now, he's going to fight in early March. The WBO number one is Josh Kelly, but the favourite to fight Tim in March is Erickson Lubin. He's a WBO number two. But after that, it gets a little bit shallow as far as opponents go. Now, you've got the IBF belt that's also vacated. You've got the Russian Murtazaliev and maybe Jack Kulke fighting for that IBF belt. And if you take those two out of it, if Charlo doesn't want a piece of Tim, and then you've got Lubin and maybe Josh Kelly, there's not really much out there if he doesn't have a Crawford or Spence. I'm hoping, praying, that Terence Crawford takes care of Errol Spence and then he decides to step up to fight Tim Zooo. And the fact that it's the WBO belt, I think, is a massive thing. Terence Crawford likes to fight for the WBO belt. He's obviously held the belts right through the divisions. Tim, I would think, would be the ideal opponent for him, especially if Tim gets that March fight under his belt. Let's just say it's Lubin. He gets rid of Lubin. I can see Tim Zooo and Terence Crawford fighting at the end of 2024. And that fight alone getting made obviously makes it the biggest, or the opportunity to make the biggest impact of not just 2024, but probably of all time, if Tim Zooo could get past Terence Crawford. Now, again, with the options, he's already beaten 3 or 4 of the top 10 in the WBO, the Gorshets, Mendozas, those types of guys. So there's not really much out there. So what could happen if Tim Zooo doesn't get that massive fight with a Crawford or a Spencer or a Charlo, and George Cambos fights Lomachenko, and then maybe a Stevenson or a Davison by the end of the year? Of course, George Cambos would be making the biggest impact, but I'm just banking on the fact that Tim Zooo will get that big fight. And even if he maybe doesn't, he unifies maybe 1 or 2 of those other belts, and he's just seen as Australia's biggest superstar, which he sort of is now, but I think he just solidifies it. So there it is there. Now, that is the top 10. Now, I know a few of you guys and guys and girls out there are probably thinking, hang on, why isn't such and such a fighter on the list? Again, it's not the biggest names. It's not the ones that maybe have potential. It's maybe not the ones that have already been at the top of the mountain and are looking to get back, or others that are at the base of the mountain with opportunities to go up. It's just, as I said, not the pound-for-pound list of the ones that I think will make the biggest impact. But I'm going to quickly go through 10 other Australian boxers that you may be thinking, what the hell is wrong with this guy? Why aren't they on the list? Now, I'm going to start with the blatantly obvious, and that is Michael Pretty Boy Zerafa. Now, the reason I haven't got Michael Zerafa on the list of top 10 Aussie fighters, to make the biggest impact is I just don't think, win or lose the WBA belt. Now, it has been not officially announced, but it's been leaked that he will fight Alexander Lara next. Lara and Danny Garcia apparently is off. Zerafa and Lara will fight next. Now, great opportunity for Michael Zerafa. Don't get me wrong, a massive opportunity. The problem with Michael Zerafa is the fight itself with Lara, it has basically no traction whatsoever. It really has no impact on the world of boxing. Australians aren't interested in it. The international scene aren't interested in it. They don't care. Now, I'm not trying to be harsh on Michael Zerafa here. I hope he wins the belt. I really do. But at the end of the day, people, the fight fans, the Australian fight fans obviously don't think a lot of Michael Zerafa, so they're not really going to get behind him, especially if it's in the States. Not really going to care or get behind that fight. In America, most people don't know who Michael Zerafa is. Lara is seen as over the hill and shot. Hasn't fought very often either, so he's sort of seen, the whole fight's seen as a bit blah. Now, even if he wins that fight, I just don't think he gets a big fight after that. There's not, again, like some of the other guys out there, the talent pool at the middleweight division at the moment is it's very, very shallow at the moment. So even if he wins that belt, I'm not quite sure there's another fight after that can really, again, make an impact. So I hope I'm wrong, but again, I understand if you're out there thinking this guy's on drugs, what is he thinking? I just don't think, win or lose, that fight, with the Lara fight by itself, is just not very marketable. And even if he wins, again, I just don't see Michael as being a very marketable type of guy in the middleweight scene. I don't see a lineup of guys wanting that belt. I think if they want a world title belt, they're going to go through the other channel. So, again, I hope I'm wrong, but I'm just saying it as I call it. Best of luck to him when he does fight Lara, but I just don't see him, even if he wins that belt, making really any impact on the world scene in 2024. The other notable absentee is Andrew Maloney. This was pretty hard for me to leave Andrew out. He's obviously close to my heart. Did get the win over Judy Flores in December. And he's targeting that WBO belt held by Kosei Tanaka. Andrew is also rated by the WBO at number 4, WBC number 6, WBA number 8, and IBF number 9. So he's got the potential to be right back amongst it this year, but he needs to rebuild. The Nakatani loss was absolutely devastating for Andrew. Great to see him back on the winners list. But I'm probably seeing maybe towards the end of 2024 he may get another opportunity. As I said, the targeting Tanaka, but I can't put him in the top 10 of the ones I think will make the biggest impact because he's on that road back. He needs to get another win or two under his belt, and obviously a bigger opportunity to show his back. So at the moment, just a bit of an asterisk beside Andrew Maloney, but I've got no doubt he will be back in the full swing in 2024. The other one is Rowan Murdoch. Now, he has got a big fight on the same card as Jason Maloney mid-January against Christian Mabili. And now, if he does win that, doors are going to open, but it's a big if he wins that. It's a tough fight for him. Very, very, very capable of winning is Rowan Murdoch, but he needs to win that fight just to be in even the talking point of the world scene. So that's why I've sort of left him out. Even if he beats Mabili, all that will then do will probably just elevate him up in the world rankings and maybe get a few people looking at him for maybe big fights. But until he does that, again, that asterisk is beside Rowan Murdoch. The other one is Isaac Hardman. Now, these are in no particular order, by the way. I've just sort of thrown them together. Now, he's had a couple of good wins under his belt. Kazuki Kayahara, Troy Coleman, of course, this year to get himself back amongst the mix, in the mix after that really disappointing loss to Michael Zerafa. But again, I just see him now being on the fringe of being able to make a move. Now, I really welcome and support No Limits matchmaking of Isaac this year. I thought Kayahara and Coleman were the ideal opponents for him to get in the mix of the world scene. Dip his toe in the water of the elites of that division. Not that those guys were elite, but it just puts him in the mix of that international pool, I suppose. So, yeah, I think he's got the potential this year of stepping up, and then the rest is up to him, and also what No Limit have planned for him as well. So that's why he's got an asterisk beside him as well, because I just see him being just on the fringe at the moment with the ability to make his move, a bit like Rowan Murdoch. Stevie Sparks, the other one, of course, he had that, we'll call it the win over Montana Love, disqualification, of course. Put him in the mix. He had the disappointing loss to Gabriel Venezuela on the Canelo undercard, and then was injured, so he's been out of it for the year. I think he'll get some opportunities this year. I'd love to see him maybe get a potential fight against Liam Parro, but I think they're on opposite courses at the moment, both trying to make the move. So I sort of see him more this year, getting for the first half of the year anyway, maybe getting a soft kill or two under his belt, and then maybe getting the possibility of having a bigger fight at the end of next year. But it's still very much an asterisk besides Stevie Spark. Wrapped at his back, but I don't see him as making a big impact yet. He needs to get back amongst it, and then we'll see how he goes. The other one is Dana Coolwell. He's got a fight March 23 against Fernando Tagpuno. Now, the issue I've got with the Dana Coolwell situation is he's a great young talent, but he has parted ways with Tasman Fighters. I think he's with Punch for Pay Promotions now. I'm just not quite sure they have the ability to progress him further into the international ranks. He's got all the ability in the world. I like the fact that he had those 2 early setbacks, and they pulled him back a little bit, let him regroup, and get a few wins under his belt before relaunching into the international scene. But I'm not sure Tagpuno is the one that's really going to propel him into those world rankings. So, yeah, as I said, it remains to be seen with Dana. And as I said, I'm really just a little bit concerned that he's left Tasman Fighters, who have obviously done big things with Opataya and Coolwell, and aligned with Matchroom as well. So I'm just not quite sure what impact he can make without those guys behind him, but we'll see. Another one that reportedly is left Tasman Fighter is Taylor Robinson. Now, she's sort of, I'm not sure how high she's ranked with all the organisations, but she's gone a little bit quiet as well. She has potential to make an impact, but just at the moment, she seems to be treading water a little bit. So, again, I've put an asterisk beside her. Another one I'm sure to get feedback on is Connor Wallace. The main thing is, and I know I've said it a few times in these types of episodes, he's not an Australian boxer. He's an Irishman who's based in Australia. Now, I love the fact he's embraced the whole Australian way, but it doesn't change the fact that he's an Irishman who's just based himself here in Australia for his career and will probably go home after it's done. So that's why I haven't put Connor Wallace in the top 10 that could make an impact. I think he'd be on the fringe anyway, but he is world ranked now by all the organisations, so I'm sure, and like, he's a great guy, and I hope he does make an impact on the world scene, but I've just left him out because of the fact that he's just not Australian. I'm sorry if I offend people out there, but it's just fact. I've got two, again, really notable ones. Paulo Akuso, I think ability-wise has the potential to be top 2 or 3 pound for pound in this country. He had the win in October against Gabriel Diaz. Again, my biggest worry with Paulo Akuso, he left No Limit, the biggest promotional company in Australia, to go with a little-known company. I know he fought on Stan, but what from here? What happens? What are the big fights? Well, how are they going to get behind him? How are they going to get him internationally recognised? How are they going to be able to afford those opponents for him? I personally think it was a massive mistake from him to leave No Limit. Now, maybe something might happen that we didn't know about. Maybe they're going to get him to sign with a Matchroom or a Top Rank or Golden Boy, one of these guys. I don't know, but at the moment, it just seemed a really odd decision to pull him from No Limit and put him with a no-name promoter. So, yeah, that's why I've got an asterisk beside him as well, and he didn't make that list. I think he's got more than enough potential to make a massive impact on the world scene, but it just remains to be seen whether he can do it without a big promoter behind him at this stage. So maybe it's a 2025 thing we'll have to address, but we'll see. And the other one is Nikita Zooo. Now, Nikita is on the march at the moment. I just think it comes down to his management and his promotional firm, No Limit, of course, how far they want to step him up. I've got a feeling they want another 12 months of fighting Australian caliber fighters, maybe international fighters that are either journeymen or whatever it might be like that. Just because I keep saying it in these episodes that we do with Nikita, that he was out of boxing for 8 years. I know he's been back for a couple of years now and going great guns. And I think he's definitely obviously got the potential, like his brother, to do big things. But I'm just not sure whether 2024 is the year you'll see him make an impact internationally. I think that might be from next year, and that's why I've got him as an asterisk as well. So, look, I hope I've explained it. I'm sure there'll be people coming for me because of Michael Zerafa or Andrew Maloney or Isaac Hardman or Nikita Zooo. I get that, but I hope I've explained it just enough to have you understand what I'm getting at. It's not who's the most talented, not who's the best pound for pound. It's just the fighters who I think will get opportunities in 2024, big opportunities, and have the ability or the potential to make massive impacts for Australian boxing. What a great time for Australian boxing to be in, to think that we've got those 10 that I mentioned, but also to have Zerafa, Maloney, Murdoch, Hardman, Kuso, all these guys, Zooo, Nikita Zooo, all mentioned as guys that didn't make the list, who all have potential to make huge impacts on world boxing in 2024. So look, I hope you liked what I've did there and you agree with it. I know everyone out there won't, but give me your feedback down below, and we'll see if we can have a bit more discussion about it on Talking Boxing or whatever other shows that we might do coming up. So again, thanks for joining in. Again, put your comments down below and look to catch up soon. Thanks for watching.